We are live. Today the topic is narcissism.
Pull your mic closer.
Today the topic is narcissist, narcissism, narcissist,
That guy.
that guy, that lady, that woman, that man. And the reason why we're talking about this, and I really don't want to give a reason, it's just a topic that I feel like needs to be discussed because so many people are dealing with narcissists and they really don't understand how detrimental it is to you and the person that is the narcissist. Sometimes it's two narcissists together and that's something. But it's not just only relationship wise because you could be dealing with a narcissist at work. You can be dealing with a narcissist, these people that's out here doing these mass shootings and everything, those they have narcissist behavior. And I was just talking, I looked up the definition of a narcissist, and it really, the first part of it really blew me away because I just thought it was way more to it until I started reading it and found that I was right with my thought. But a narcissist, if you look up the definition, it's going to tell you first that um, they just have a high excessive attraction to themselves. So they really think that above that they think they're above other people or they just get into themselves excessively. And so the discussion was more of a person could argue, isn't that the way that they are supposed to feel about themselves? And no, my my answer to that is no. I think that you should, self-love is very important, but when you start to have excess of anything, I think that that's a problem and detrimental to your life. A narcissist is a very hard person to deal with. They don't see their faults, they don't see anything wrong with what they do because of the excessive behavior that they have with liking their own selves, when in turn they really don't love themselves. Um, because as you read on and dig more into what narcissism is, you see that they have excessive sadness as well. They have a lot of excessive behaviors that's detrimental to their lives and people around them that could possibly get into their environment. So um dealing with a narcissist, you sometimes a lot of people would say just leave if it's in a relationship. I don't know job wise because I really didn't look much into that. But if you were working with or your boss or something is a narcissist, how would you deal with a situation like that? How do you deal with the narcissist? Um, and my personal thought, you don't. You don't. At the end of the day, if it becomes that excessive, because the behavior that they already demonstrate with excessiveness in liking themselves or putting themselves above others, there anything else that's associated with their behavior is going to be excessive. In my thought, I think that at the end of the day, that's something you should get out of eventually. Um, the thought is that you can't change a narcissist, that this is just the way that they are. They're never going to see any fault in themselves. They're never going to see that they have a problem or they're dealing with an internal issue that needs to be dealt with. And if they're not willing to um, do anything about that or give attention to that behavior and do anything to change it, then it's going to affect you and it's going to be a revolving issue. Please feel free to give any comments back. I am going to be logging out shortly off Instagram because we are live on YouTube as well. But just wanted to give you a short synopsis of what we're talking about today so that you can get some thought on what narcissism is and what the behavior looks like. Sometimes these behaviors can turn really bad and sometimes even death if you continue to deal with the person that really thinks and believes their own behavior and can't see your point of view. I'm going to go ahead and sign out of Instagram and continue this conversation on YouTube. You guys go ahead on over to Chatty Queens Brunch Club YouTube page and you can hear the rest of this conversation.
What's going on?
I feel funny about doing it that way. But
It's better for your brand.
okay.
But you get there. You get it. That way.
I think that this is a very important topic.
It is. It is definitely a self-awareness is very important this day and age because a lot of people are getting to that stage of growth and development. And a lot of times you have to understand your behaviors affect everything.
Yeah.
How you carry yourself, how you look at things, how you perceive things can definitely make the difference of whether or not you're still in the entry level phase of your life or if you're the boss that everybody wants to be. I use that analogy because I recently just started a new job. I won't say the name of it because y'all ain't gonna come to my job asking for stuff.
I want to come ask for stuff.
I'm just saying you're not gonna be able to do that anyway. But we sat down with the head director of our particular division. So the dude who's literally one step below the CEO at this point in time for our division in so many words. And he was explaining like a lot of opportunities that he had starting at the very bottom and working his way up. And more importantly, the amount of no's he got. The amount of we decide to go with someone else, the amount of you're just not the right fit. And I sat down and I thought about like my career path, period. Whereas, and there was a point in time where I was a cocky son of a bitch.
I can see that.
Okay.
Definitely.
And it wasn't that I was cocky because I thought I was better than everybody else. I was cocky because the black and white proved I was better than you. Okay.
Okay.
So I had always made sure if you're gonna be that asshole, have something to back it up.
Right. Yeah, but that still doesn't make
But
it okay.
it doesn't make it okay. And that became with maturity where I understood just because I'm good at what I do doesn't mean I'm good for what I want to do. And what I wanted to do was be in leadership roles, be in management roles, be in positions where I call the shots. And I kept getting told no. So instead of sitting there analyzing why I'm getting all these no's when the black and white proved it, I eventually had to get to the point where I had to stop being a narcissistic jerk and sit down and ask, so why didn't I get the role? And at first when I used to ask it, it made them very defensive, like, whoa, we don't talk about our decision making. But then I had to learn how to change how I ask the questions. So what can I do to improve my chances to get the role? And over time, I started humbling myself more.
Yes.
And started being less of a, yes, I'm phenomenal at what I do, but what gets me to where I want to be is, can I teach somebody else how to do this? Am I approachable? Do I understand why I'm able to do this enough to see that this person is not doing what I'm doing, that person's not doing what I'm doing, and that person's not what I'm doing? Can I make all three of them not only do what I do, but do it in a way that makes sense to them? So I can teach you how to sell TV to an old person, as an example.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to teach you why you should want that TV yourself to make it easier for you to tell that old person why they need that TV.
That makes a lot of sense.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So that was the thing that I had to eventually learn. I didn't sell TVs, people. I just used it as an example. But it was just like I had to learn how to be approachable.
Yes.
And most narcissists are not approachable.
They're not approachable.
They're not approachable. They're not approachable, and they're easy to become defensive.
Yes.
Because the minute you question what they say and do, now it's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn, you're not questioning what I'm saying I'm doing because you don't believe me. You're questioning what I'm saying and doing because you want to learn how to do it too in some cases. Now, occasionally you got those who was like, nigga, we don't believe you until I show you how I did it. And then it makes sense to you. Competition is good as long as it's healthy.
Are you saying that a narcissist can change their behavior?
A narcissist most definitely can change their behavior, but they have to understand and accept that they're a narcissist. That's the number one thing. Like I said before, we tell our brother on one of the shows all the time. He's introduced as the narcissist. Then we give him his fictitious title he created. And then we said his name. And he keeps saying, don't call me a narcissist. Until we broke down the definition of it. Then one day he was like, maybe I might be. That's the first step. Accepting the fact that maybe you might actually be a narcissist.
A narcissist.
And it's up to you to accept it as either, yeah, I'm a narcissist, but I am who I am, and own it, or saying, okay, I do sound like a narcissist, but I don't want to be considered narcissistic. And that's where that conversation needs to be had, and whatnot. But no, I'm no longer a narcissist.
Well, and
Still cocky though.
Yeah. And so I can argue that. And that's why I think that we need to really dig deep, because sometimes I think, and then there's this saying that a narcissist cannot change.
Okay.
They will always have that line of behavior.
That's more okay. So for those people who think that are also the same people who think an old dog can't learn new tricks. Meaning that
they'll still have that line of behavior,
but
because they are very comfortable in certain ways.
There's a difference of being comfortable in your ways, but being able to know that what you're doing can be perceived this way.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why I said I'm not narcissistic, but I am still cocky. But if you ever be around me, take my new job for an example. What I do, I've been doing to a certain extent for 20 years. Mm-hmm. Okay. So outside of learning how the new company wants you to do it, I can do this in my sleep. I'm literally in training, bored out of my mind, because you're teaching everybody how to do this job when I can teach you who's teaching them how to do the job. That's narcissistic of me if I said it out loud, right?
It's narcissistic of you to even think it, okay?
It is, but if I know I'm good at what I do, I'm good at what I do. But I don't. What I do is I sit in the class and I allow everybody to learn at the level they learn, and then come behind and help fill in the gaps where they're confused at.
No, that's not narcissistic. No. And that's the way that you're supposed to think.
That's the way you're supposed, but I had to learn how to do that.
But your mind frame is still the same.
It's still the same. I still have that thought process, but I'm smart enough because I know how my behaviors can be to allow myself to change it. So then we do have another individual in the class who is a mirror reflection of me, but they're not the helpful kind of a person. They're the ones who are, yeah, I can't wait to do this. I'm this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to destroy. And they're putting it all out there. And I'm like, challenge accepted. But you don't know that.
And just so you got to look at it as a challenge?
Exactly.
That you're a narcissist.
Didn't say I wasn't, but here's.
You did.
I said I'm cocky now.
You totally said you're not narcissist anymore.
I'm not. I look at it as a challenge because your perspective is you're going to be the best at this and nobody can beat you. But you don't know everybody around you. This is his thought process. I'm going to be the best at it and nobody can beat me.
And that arose something on the inside of you. You can't look past it.
I can, but I also want to knock you off your peg. No, that's not the narcissism in me. That's the Sagittarius in me.
I know. Don't even try to.
We're very competitive. I can be the worst at the job. I can be brand new, never did this before, and I can see the person up here who's at 110%. And by nature, you're my competition. Not to destroy you, but I want you to understand that you're not the best, because everybody that's number one can eventually become number two.
Okay, so nobody should think they're the best.
Nobody should ever think they're the best, because there's always going to be somebody better than you.
And you do know that that's narcissistic behavior.
That's just the way competition. That's the way, believe it or not, that's the way the world is, period. Narcissistic think is I'm always going to be the best.
But you're thinking that way in essence.
No. The person who knocks them off the ledge doesn't have to be me.
But you immediately got competitive.
I'm immediately competitive. That's different.
And it's so easy to mix and get confused with narcissism and astrology and anything else that
competitiveness.
Competitiveness. And that's why it's good to get facts. And that's why I do my research. And it's something that I found here that I just want to, it's only a little bit here that it says a narcissistic personality disorder is actually a mental illness.
It can be.
Narcissistic personality disorder is a mental health condition in which people have an unreasonably high sense of their own importance.
Okay.
And it says they need to seek too much attention.
I don't like attention.
Oh my God.
If I liked attention, I would be on the camera with you right now. Prime example.
No,
a
that doesn't
narcissist.
mean that.
Yeah, think about it. Attention. A camera, a live stream on a podcast means that everybody sees you.
They know who you are, Tom.
Believe it or not, it wasn't until I've been doing this for almost 12 years now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It wasn't until 3 years ago that anybody who didn't personally know me ever seen me on the camera.
Well,
I
they
never
know now.
never
You're
been,
okay with that now.
Never been on the front of the camera. I am comfortable with being not seen. I'm okay with not being seen. Meanwhile, my brother, the narcissist, front and center on whatever show he's on.
Can we argue that that's a bad thing? Because you're doing a podcast, it's his show.
It's not always his show. But yes, we know it's a bad thing. That's why we target him every single time. That's why his title is The Narcissist. Insert name here.
You know what? So as I was reading this, and something you said earlier, they need to seek too much attention and want people to admire them.
Yes.
Okay. And people with this disorder may lack the ability to understand or care about the feelings of others. That's the problem.
That is definitely the problem.
Also, but behind this mask of extreme confidence, they're not sure of their self-worth and are easily upset by the slightest criticism. That's the part that gets me, because when you have such excessive behavior, you don't have time to think about others. You don't have time, and that's not a good feeling when you're dealing with a person, you're not a narcissist, and you don't have that extreme and excessive behavior of self-worth,
right,
and all these kinds of things. And sometimes that can make a person shy away from you. Nobody wants to be around somebody who always has this feeling of, but like they're just so elite to the next person that shuns on another person. That's disrespectful, and it makes a person feel like, well, what am I here for? If you all you need is you, it always has to be you. Even some men, I can go into some men. I don't want to go into relationships because you're right about that. But some men use that mirror more than you, or in that last little sentence, upset about the slightest criticism, can't even have a conversation. It always turns into an argument, or you get so on a defense when somebody says something about you, or, that's really bad behavior.
It is bad behavior. If you do your research, like if you were to literally sit down and like go out and canvas and survey people, you will find out that most narcissistic people are single.
I can believe that.
Most narcissistic people are living their whole phase, as they're calling it now, because they can't commit to one thing unless they're dealing with either a beta personality, so someone who's naturally submissive to the roles that the other person has, whether male or female, or another narcissistic person, because you're going to be in the mirrors together. You're going to care about looking good together. You're going to make sure you're putting the best version of you on Instagram or social media every single time something's out there. You want to be seen as the it couple, even though you're the shit couple. But that's a whole nother conversation for a different day. You're going to notice. Right. You're going to notice these things about those types of individuals anyway, because no one has told them. Let me rephrase that. They haven't accepted what no one has told them as of yet, that this personality that you have created for yourself is not going to last. And when you think about the social media world we live in, social media creates narcissism as well.
I could see that.
And when you have a whole generation that cares more about likes and being verified, you're going to do what needs to be taken to be seen. And when you finally hit that status of fictitious popularity, it goes to your head.
And you know something, I did like a little reel. I don't know. I did a reel on my Instagram, and it was about this lady talking all crazy to this couple that was in a dollar store. And then she got hit in the head with a pot. And it's totally doing good. You know, like people are noticing it, and I hate even like I got all these crazy. I wouldn't say insecurities, but I'm like I wasn't looking my best on that video, but I just did it to see what would happen, and it's getting a lot of attention. And I started having these thoughts, and I was gonna say like I know I'm not a narcissist, and I can tell by my thoughts. I really have.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really critical about myself. Um, I started to start doing like I wanted to start doing stuff like bringing attention to my page by creating false narratives about my life without telling the truth about some things. And I just was so uncomfortable putting out videos and stuff about stuff. Like it just didn't seem right. I didn't
Because
feel right.
it's a false narrative. You can't live. You personally can't live with the idea of not being authentically you.
Right. But then even that, and even in that, I don't want everybody knowing every little thing about me either. And sometimes when you put yourself in the forefront like that, like you said, well, a narcissist has to do everything to get this type of attention. I'm not with that, because some things you have to keep separate.
True.
Now I want to get to the point where I'm doing that, but I just some of the
You have
attention is just
you have to
unwanted.
find your lane of what you want to do. For an example, on TikTok, I follow, of course, my friends because that's what you want to do. You want to support your people as much as possible. But I also tend to follow other podcasts who may post their material on there because I like to see ideas of what they're doing with theirs because I may want to incorporate that to certain shows based on who it is. But more importantly, I follow skits. I follow people who create content and they have made a lane with the type of content they created. Like there's a young lady who for every zodiac sign during the sign, she'll make a series of skits about her interactions with these types of signs. Then she may go a little bit deeper and put some humor behind it. And occasionally, every once in a while, you'll see just her video of her doing what she loves to do, which is dancing. And that's her whole lane. Then there's a young lady who has a series of skits dealing with office like politics. And she's turned it into a small little soap opera. She's the character and everything, whole 9 yards. And what I'm saying this to say to you is maybe your lane is not for you to give an insight of your life, but maybe you are supposed to do little skits or scenarios or create a whole persona and you live within this persona online. And not a persona as in you are not who you are, but maybe you're telling the story. Like there's a gentleman who does the skits where he works at Heaven's call center.
So I think I've seen
you
that
definitely
one.
have. If
I
you
like
follow
that
me,
one.
you've seen me because I post them.
I like that
I
one.
post them whenever he does them often on.
It's pretty
but
funny.
it's his thing. And each story he does within the Heaven call center, the person who's coming to heaven is coming with a toxic behavior that they had on earth and expected that this toxic behavior is supposed to still let you get into heaven or whatnot. Then of course you'll always have the comedians and their different skits and stuff, whatnot. But maybe your thing is to find your lane to convey your message, but not be you as the person conveying it. Because one of my favorite ones that I see on Instagram is this young lady is deaf. Okay. One of her main characters is deaf. And deaf goes and collects people after they die. But it's always an issue with the person who died that they don't want to leave Earth. Such as in this one person legitimately worked herself to death. And even when death is trying to tell her, okay, it's time to go, you're like, no, I can't be dead. I got this to do on Tuesday. I got this deadline to meet. It's like you're here because you wouldn't take a break so you could take care of yourself. Right. And it's an ongoing thing. So maybe your lane is to find a way to get your message out, a little bit of humor, but a little bit of sarcasm, but the message is still conveyed. So it doesn't have to be your own personal life.
Yeah.
So look into that.
I will. I think that you're onto something. This, I'm always having some sarcasm. I'm always having this goofy mentality when I come on my podcast. But narcissism was a topic that I take very seriously because I think it's starting to affect the world.
It is.
And I think that the reason, sometimes you hear a phrase or a word or a term at specific times in your life, and people are just not aware of themselves enough to know when things are changing within themselves. And you can deal with a narcissist for a very long time without even recognizing their behavior. But then when you start to outgrow the old you and you start to see this behavior, because a narcissist is very detrimental to an environment. I think that they can change a whole environment. And every time you see them coming, people be like, I don't want to deal with you. It's time to go. Here comes so and so. And that's why I said it. It's just not in relationships. It can be in your workplace environment. It can be going to school. Kids are narcissistic nowadays. Right. And I think it, like you said, it goes back to social media. And this is where it started, because social media became a thing, over the last, big, probably last 3 years, would you say?
Yeah.
Last 3 years. And you've been hearing narcissistic more and more. That's when you started hearing more about narcissistic behavior. People wanting to be first, wanting to be on the forefront, don't want to hear anything about themselves. That, when you demonstrate self-love, not excessive behavior, but self-love, it's self-awareness as well.
True.
Narcissistic is not self-awareness.
Narcissism is definitely not self-awareness. Narcissism is finding that happy spot that you like about yourself, and you're emphasizing everything about that. That is really all it is.
Because you're sad everywhere else.
You're sad in other places.
So many other places.
I won't say everywhere else, but you're sad in so many ways. We're also in the generation of therapy, where therapy is recommended. It's not just only those white people do that. Everybody goes to therapy now. Everybody goes to therapy. Everybody needs to go to therapy. And what's happening is, while going to therapy, we're starting to look at things that we've dealt with before that we shouldn't have to. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of trauma that we want to bury.
Yeah.
And when you bury that trauma, you tend to push people, places, things, ideas, concepts away. And you just don't deal with it. So you look at what's left over. I separate myself from my mom because I didn't like the way I was raised. I separate myself from my family because they're poor and I'm not trying to be poor no more. But now I got this great 6-figure job. I got the car and the house that I wanted, and I live on this side of town, or I live in this city. You tend to want to shut everything that made you get here off. Yep. And you focus on you being this phenomenal person, when in actuality you're dead inside, because even though you have this car, this crib, this whole nine, your job doesn't look at you because you just worked your way all the time. So you don't get invited to nothing because you're not an approachable person. You can't find nobody serious to date. Those people who are on your level look at you like you're not one of us. Yeah. So you're lonely.
Yeah.
You're still lonely. Yeah. You have all this materialistic happiness, yep, but you're still lonely. Right.
And that's why you have so many other sad places when you're a narcissist, because you have this excessive behavior, like you said, in one area, and all these other areas are not being fulfilled. You don't have... what did you say?
I said punch him.
You don't have the time in your mind mentally to go back and think about other folks and think about their thoughts.
So what do you think you should do as a way to heal from this?
I think in relationships, I think you should step back. If you're dealing with a narcissist, I think that, and this is what I want to say to narcissists, people that are dealing with the narcissist, I feel like they should step back and give that narcissist a chance to get to know what it is that they're doing to their environment and to themselves. Because everybody around them is dealing with that. People that are narcissists or have narcissistic behavior, I feel like what I would say to you is get help. And it's so serious, because if you can't take in consideration other people's thoughts and how another person feel around you that you have to deal with all the time, then you are ruining yourself, your life, and that person. You need to not look for things in other people that you're not giving. And I'm going to say that again. You shouldn't look for things in a person that you are not demonstrating yourself. If you cannot express love and care and give the same attention that you desire, you're never going to get it. You are never going to get the attention that you're seeking until you learn to portray that to others and give that to others. You have a serious problem if you believe in your mind this is a mental illness that needs attention. And I know that there has to be something hiding in every narcissistic that needs to be taken care of therapeutically. And if you don't feel like that, then you're not even at the beginning stage of getting help. That's what I would say regarding healing. If you're dealing with somebody like that at work, I haven't really thought about that, but I would just say stay in your own lane, get your work done, and try not to deal with that person as much as possible until something comes. I believe every narcissist will have their day and time where they have to realize that they're wrong. And it's going to be very hard, even in self awareness. Even if a narcissistic realize that they're a narcissist, I don't think it will change anything because they love having that excessive behavior. Do you agree?
I agree.
And that's why it's so hard for people to believe that they can change.
I don't think so.
It's said that narcissists get away from them, run fast.
I don't think
That's a
so.
thing. It's a thing.
I don't
I've
think
seen
so.
it over and over again.
The reason why I say I don't think so, I think a narcissist needs a truly honest person, like a very blunt person who calls them out on their behaviors every time they exhibit it. Because what tends to happen is when an individual gets defensive, we're as human beings, we naturally back away. Like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to deal with this. But an individual who has no problem telling you what's on their mind and saying it as is and stands on it is usually what make a narcissistic person kind of look at themselves better, because it takes them looking to see whether or not they are what they say they are for them to change who they are.
I don't agree.
I have to disagree with you because as a former narcissistic person, I'm not anywhere close to the way I used to be.
But you just said you're still narcissistic.
No, I said I'm cocky. It's a difference.
But I said, but you're a narcissist, and you said we can rewind this.
Yeah, you can rewind. Now you can also hear me say, no, I'm actually cocky. Because when you talked about a narcissistic person doesn't care about the feelings of anybody else, I care about everybody that's around me. When we had the conversation earlier where I said in class, I'm the best. I know I'm the best the whole 9 yards, and you got to prove me wrong. I don't do that now. I stop and I want to help everybody to get on my level. But that person who is being narcissistic is who I challenge, because that person needs to be knocked down the peg to realize the world doesn't revolve around you. Mm-hmm. And by you not being number one should prove that to you, because you can't think you're number one if you're not number one. So that I guess I am trying to be that person who's blunt and honest to you to change a narcissistic person, if that makes any sense to you.
The only reason why I don't really agree is because I've dealt with a narcissistic person, and I'm a blunt person. I'm very outspoken.
But you're also a person who doesn't want to make ripples if you don't have to.
No, I don't. But that doesn't mean I'm not outspoken and I won't recognize behavior and say something about it.
Whoop his ass.
So I feel like that doesn't change enough. That's why that personality and that behavior is so strong. And even when you think you're not a narcissistic person, you are. And you still demonstrate that behavior. And I think that until you get therapy or seek some professional help,
whoop his ass,
you're just gonna be struggling, trying your best not to have that type of behavior. And in all essence, at the end of the day, it's serious.
It is.
It's serious. I would never say it's gonna turn into a situation where you can laugh about it sometimes and cry about it all the time. Like, you're never going to be able to look at a narcissistic person that's deeply embedded in the excessive behavior and there's not going to be a point where it's going to crash, especially with no self-awareness. And I think that's what you're experiencing, your self-awareness, when you can see that there's a problem and then you're trying to do something about it. Narcissists don't do that. So I can see where you're coming out of it.
That's why I'm not narcissistic. Thank you for answering your own question.
I wouldn't label you as narcissistic, but I can say you have the behavior.
Thank
Some
you.
of the behaviors.
Everybody has the behavior. Anybody can be a narcissist. Anybody can be one.
Yeah.
What are you good at?
Talking.
Exactly.
I love to communicate.
So you can be narcissistic. Nobody can out debate you.
I love to shop. I love fashion.
Okay, I know a lot of women that could probably outshop you, but still,
I'm sure.
But what I'm saying,
I'm not trying. And see, that's
the
what
difference.
makes me not a narcissistic,
Right.
And that's your narcissistic behavior that even made that phrase.
No,
I don't care who can outshop me.
No, but what I'm saying is that it goes to my point that anybody can become a narcissistic person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're not born narcissistic. You have to be made narcissistic.
I don't think so.
You telling me a newborn baby comes out here is like I'm the best damn baby there is?
Yep. And you don't start seeing it until they start walking and talking.
No, I refuse to believe
people say they're born gay.
That's different. That's
no.
There's steps to that. There's steps.
No.
I don't believe you're born narcissistic because as a baby you're a clean slate, so you have to be taught the behavior you're taught. If that's the case, then you can say racist people are born racist.
So do you think it comes from like drug use?
Being narcissistic?
Yep.
No.
Because you got to overplay your part and overplay your role and overplay yourself.
I won't
you
say
just be yourself.
I won't say it comes from
drug
drug use.
Something.
I won't say it is drug use because I know some narcissistic people who has never once done any drugs, drunk any alcohol, or done anything to damage their body. Some very narcissistic people are, my body is a temple. I would refuse to allow anything like that to happen to me. So I wouldn't say that.
But they'll go sleep with everybody.
Even then, it's a conquest. Even in those cases, and narcissistic people who are out here sleeping with everybody else is searching for that intimacy that they never got from their parents.
See,
so that doesn't necessarily mean that you're born that way. Your circumstances create who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So you can be a very poverty-stricken person who had to share clothes with your siblings and still grow up to be the world's biggest asshole.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that at the same time, you can be an entitled, spoiled, rich kid that got whatever you asked for in the newest form when you got it, still can make you a narcissist. It does not matter. So I refuse to say you're born that way. I think you do grow into it. I do think your experiences in life can make you be that way. I don't think that every narcissistic person comes from some kind of traumatic event either. I just think that you feel like you are, what's the word I'm looking for? You are addicted to the praise.
Addicted, obsessive, all that goes.
You are addicted to the praise. You are addicted to the acknowledgement. You are addicted to the fact that you are the center of attention.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are the center of attention, yes, at that point in time, the world does revolve around you because you're at the center of it. So if you feel like you're the center of attention, you're going to do everything in your power to remain in the center.
But you know why narcissistic behavior is so bad? It's because
it's toxic.
It's so toxic. And that is the very thing that gets you and going to bring you down. That's going to be your downfall. You thinking that the world revolves around you because only you think that.
But this is why they tend to do things like put people in their circle who either A, thinks and moves like they do, or B, makes them the center of attention. Prime example. There's always the mean girls at school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Always the mean girls at school, right? And majority of the time, the perception of the mean girls are usually the popular girls, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they control the status quo. Movies and TVs has projected that they control the status quo of what is acceptable and not acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
In every mean girl circle, there's one particular girl. And if you pay attention to that one particular girl, she's always narcissistic. Okay. I use this as an example because recently me and my girls was watching this movie called Darby and the Deads. Okay.
Darby and the Deads. You heard of that, Z?
It just came out.
Oh, okay.
How Darby's and the Deads.
Is it? It's at the movies?
No. It's
Okay.
on Hulu. I watched it on Hulu.
Okay.
So I think it was originally a Nickelodeon made for Nick TV movie because the main girl on it is it might be a Disney. No, it's a Disney. It was Disney.
Mhm.
The main girl on there was on this show called Henry Danger. And then the other girl is the mean girl in this story,
Mhm.
is the voice of Moana.
Okay.
Okay. That's why I think of Disney, because they both are Disney's. The Moana girl was the popular cheerleader. Everybody revolved around her. People did things. Everybody liked her. The whole thing, center of attention was about her.
Okay.
Because of her mean spiritedness, messing with the other girl, Darby, who was minding her own business and just being comfortable with being a weirdo, she ended up having an accident, which is how she made it to the dead side. Leave it at that.
Okay.
But unfortunately, she did not want to leave this plane of existence because she still wanted to have her 17th birthday. The very first conversation when she was dead was she couldn't accept that she was dead because, one, there's a birthday about me. There's a cheerleading competition that I got to be a part of. There's a prom I have to go to. It's all the things that she must do that makes her popular. Even while she's dead, she don't want certain people talking to a boyfriend that she ain't got no more. She don't want this. She don't want that. The whole 9 yards. So she made an agreement that she'll leave this plane if you have the 17th party. So the girl had to talk people who did actually like her into throwing the 17th birthday party to make her feel special about herself one more time before she left. So even in death, you're narcissistic. Okay? Even
That's
in
what it
death.
sound like.
Even in death, you're narcissistic. But of course, it's a Disney movie, so you got to get to a self-revelation moment in the movie and whatnot. So in order for this party to occur, the girl who can see dead people, she had to work and help her to become popular.
Mhm.
And in so many words, you found out that number one, popularity is fictitious.
Mhm.
Okay. You can pretend to be whatever to grow yourself to a point. And at the end of the day, it made her realize you're holding on to something that never mattered to begin with.
Yep.
Okay. Never to begin with. Had you lived your life as a regular person and not cared about the acceptance of others, because of course you come to find out she had her own personal internal issues. She wasn't here, didn't think like this. Because the two girls used to be best friends until they got to high school. That's when they went separate ways. So it was just a whole like self-actualization that needed to occur.
Mhm.
And it didn't occur until the girl who could see dead people started to become popular and everybody started making it about her instead of the girl that was dead.
Mhm.
Even though the girl who was becoming popular, she never wanted it to be about her to begin with. She was perfectly fine being closed off. Moral of the story, the girl ended up finally going home. The girl, in her newfound acceptance of being around people, started interacting with more people, ended up having a boyfriend when it was all said and done. And then that boyfriend ended up seeing dead people too. But hold on. It's just an interesting story. Me and my girls, we tend to watch
Very
them.
interesting.
It's an interesting story overall.
And I can see a lot of things that how it relates to narcissism.
Right. And I think that was the whole thing. The main character was more so of you have to let people in to understand what you're going through because you're never going through nothing on your own.
Right.
But the narcissistic story of the mean girl is a time-told story that we just supposed to accept.
Exactly.
And in high school, it's definitely supposed to be, oh, that's just hormones. Like, no, bitch, you rude.
Right.
Like, at the end of the day,
right.
like,
Nobody have to deal with that.
like, bitch, you rude.
Right.
Just accept it.
And that's what I was thinking as you were telling me the story.
Like, bitch, you dead. You
One
still
of the
want to be
biggest
here.
things I wanted to tell, like mainly women who's dealing with narcissistic men, I hate the thought that men don't know how narcissistic men, because they don't take the time to address other people's feelings and everything, you can bring down a woman's self-esteem. Because narcissistic men tend to try to hurt women through their words, or try to say things to try to bring them down and make them feel less than them, or saying things about things in their past or their childhood life to try to make them feel bad about themselves, or their whole goal is to show you that you're nothing or you're nobody or nobody will ever want you. And that's one of the things that I wanted to bring up on the show today is women, if you're dealing with a narcissistic person, the biggest thing that person will tell you to do is run. But that behavior needs to be addressed. And you need to know that that one person does not determine how your life is going to be after them. So if you decide to go, who's to say what your life is going to be like or why your blessings are being held up? Sometimes your spouse is holding up your blessings from God. If you can't see why your blessings aren't coming through, it's because you're with someone who doesn't deserve your blessings. And
Right.
God is not going to allow that. So you have to start thinking and reevaluating. It doesn't matter what that one person says. That one person can say whatever they want to say because they have problems. And if you believe that about yourself, then you have a problem as well. Don't let another person's problems afflict you and be your downfall. That's their problem. And if you stay too long, then it's going to start to be your problem and you're not going to be able to find a way out. So believe that good thing about yourself. Believe that you can get out of a relationship like that or out of an environment like that. Believe that you can get a better job and not be under subjection to a person or a job or an environment that does not fit you. If you're not happy, get out of it. If somebody's making you feel bad about yourself, that's a problem within you and that person around you. That shouldn't be. A lot of behavior now is happening and we're accepting it, and it should not be happening. It's not normal. It is a mental illness, and it's something that you shouldn't deal with if it's not in you. So I wanted to project that because a lot of things, and I'm trying not to get into relationships because narcissism can happen at any time in any environment with anybody.
Big
And
facts.
just it says that narcissistic behavior, you don't have to be a narcissist to demonstrate narcissistic behavior. So we have to really watch ourselves. But when you are dealing with a narcissist, I know that behavior and know that it's not something that you have to deal with. You're not stuck. Don't feel narcissistic behavior can turn into abuse. You know, if you're not doing what it can get really bad. And I've seen it happen. And I think that, in my opinion, depending on the circumstances, you should run. You should get out of a situation like that because people are dying. People are getting into situations and things, situationships that is just not appropriate for what God has planned for you in your life. So know that, and I'm not trying to get spiritual or anything, but we know I believe God is real. And at the end of the day, you don't have to go to church every day and be spiritual to understand that you have a destiny that has been built for you before you were even born. So start thinking about that and know that there's something greater for you if it's not good. If your life is not good, if things are not going well, there is something better for you on the other side. Learn how to have some awareness as well, even if that other person doesn't, so that you can outgrow that situation.
All right, let's wrap it up.
Let's go ahead and wrap it up. And I wanted to end on that note, so I'm glad we're wrapping up. I think that it's very important that we address this behavior. Follow me on Instagram. We are live on YouTube, but we are on Instagram as well. I have more content that will be coming, including a live show next month.
Next month.
Next
We're going
month
to kick off the new year with a show.
with a live show.
Not right away.
It's
but-
going to be The Love of Music. It's going to be the name of the show, and thinking about turning it into a tour. So got some good things coming. We're going to get some flyers.
War tour.
Some stuff coming. So join us.